This is the last episode. Not the last thing there is to know about Bitcoin. There's always more. But the last episode of this particular arc. The one that was always going to end here. Not with a price prediction, not with a call to action, but with the question that comes after everything else. What happens now? You've bought your first bit of Bitcoin, or you're about to. You understand what it is, why it exists, how to hold it safely, what the language means, and what to watch out for. That's a genuinely complete starting point. So this episode is about what comes after the starting point. How to hold Bitcoin long term, not just physically, but emotionally. What a sustainable approach looks like, and what this actually means in the context of your life. Ready to take your first real step? Get the guide, Buying Your First Bit of Bitcoin, $15, link in the description. Let's start with the thing that catches most people off guard. Owning Bitcoin is emotionally harder than most people expect. Not because it's complicated, but because the price moves in ways that are designed, it seems, to activate every anxious part of your brain simultaneously. It goes up dramatically and you feel like a genius. Then it drops dramatically and you feel like you made a terrible mistake. Then it recovers and you feel relieved. Then it drops again. This cycle is not unique to Bitcoin. It's the experience of holding any volatile asset. But Bitcoin's volatility is more pronounced than most. The people who do best with Bitcoin long term are not the ones with the best timing. They're the ones with the best emotional discipline. And emotional discipline is something you build, not something you either have or don't. The most useful thing you can do right now, before the price moves significantly in either direction, is decide in advance how you'll respond when it does. Not if, when. Because the price will drop. At some point after you buy, possibly soon, the price will fall. And in that moment, when the number on your screen is lower than what you paid, you'll feel something. Possibly panic. Possibly the urge to sell and stop the feeling. If you've already decided what you'll do in that moment, you don't have to make the decision from an emotional state. You've already made it. And the decision most long-term Bitcoin holders make in advance is simply, I'll hold, because I understand what I own, and a price drop doesn't change what Bitcoin is. One more practical thing. Don't check the price every day. This sounds small. It isn't. Checking the price daily, especially in volatile periods, creates anxiety without adding useful information. The price moving 10% in a day tells you nothing about what Bitcoin is worth over a decade, but it will absolutely affect how you feel, and how you feel will affect your decisions. Bitcoin is a long-term asset. Treat it with a long-term relationship. Check in occasionally, not obsessively. There's a version of owning Bitcoin that's just buying once and forgetting about it. Some people do exactly that. And for a long-term time horizon, it's not a bad approach. But there's also a version that's more intentional, one that builds a position steadily over time and treats Bitcoin as part of a broader financial picture rather than a single bet. Dollar cost averaging, DCA, which we covered in episode 9, is the approach most long-term Bitcoin holders settle on. Buy a fixed amount at regular intervals, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever fits your budget and your life. The mechanics are simple. The discipline is the hard part, especially when the price is rising and you want to buy more, or when it's falling and you want to stop. DCA works precisely because it removes those impulses from the equation. You don't decide based on how you feel. You follow the schedule. The other principle worth holding on to, Only hold what you understand. This applies to Bitcoin. It applies to everything. If you can't explain, in your own words, why you own something, what it is, what it's designed to do, what the risks are, then when the price drops, and the headlines say it's over, and everyone around you has an opinion, you won't know what to do, because you don't have your own view. You only have other people's. Understanding what you own is not optional. It's the foundation that everything else rests on. And after 11 episodes, you have that foundation. Let's zoom out for a moment. Bitcoin is not going to solve everything. It's not going to automatically make you wealthy. It's not going to replace the need for financial discipline, for saving, for thinking carefully about your money. It's not a shortcut. What it is a tool, a genuinely new kind of tool, one that offers something no previous financial instrument has offered, money that nobody controls, with a fixed supply, that you can hold directly, without permission from any institution. Whether that's valuable to you, and in what proportion relative to other things in your financial life, is a decision only you can make. This channel has never been about telling you what to do with your money. It's been about making sure you have enough understanding to make that decision yourself. But here's what I think Bitcoin does change, regardless of what you decide about owning it. It changes the question. For most of financial history, the question was, which institution do I trust with my money? Which bank? Which fund? Which government-backed system? The answer was always some version of someone else. Bitcoin makes a different question possible. What do I decide for myself? Not who do I ask permission from. What do I decide? That shift, from dependency to agency, is not small, and it's available to everyone who understands it well enough to access it, which now includes you. 11 episodes. Let's take a moment to acknowledge what that actually is. You came in, wherever you were, and you built something. Not just information, a framework, a way of thinking about money, about technology, about what ownership actually means. Slide 12. You know what Bitcoin is and why it was built. You understand the blockchain, the 21 million, the halving, why it's not a scam, how it compares to banks, what wallets are, how to buy it, how to store it safely, what the language means, and how to spot a red flag at 30 paces. That's not surface knowledge. That's a complete picture, more than most people who've owned Bitcoin for years have ever sat down and built. And here's what I want to leave you with. You were always supposed to understand this. Not as a compliment, as a statement of fact. The conversation around Bitcoin and around money and finance and investing was never actually beyond you. It was just never explained in a way that was for you, in a way that assumed you belonged in the room, in a way that didn't require you to already know, before you could learn. That's what this channel set out to change, and it's what you've done by being here, episode by episode, until the last one. Thank you for being here, for asking the hard questions, for taking the time to understand something properly, instead of just nodding along. If you're ready to take your first real step, buying your first bit of Bitcoin is in the description. $15. Everything you need in one place. And if you know someone who needs this channel, someone who's been curious but never found the right starting point, send them episode 1. That's all it takes to begin. Bitcoin for Girls, the building of a beautiful future. See you in the next one.